council business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first item is apologies, and I apologise in advance because there is quite a number. The apologies from Oxford, Barton, Beedmore, Bowden, Chosky, Cooney, Costello, Drennan, Fairfield, Ferguson, Anne and Barry, Holland, Martin, North, Pearce, Robinson, Roderick. Are there any more? No. Thank you. We'll now move on then to agenda item 2, which is declarations of interest. Has anybody got any? No? Thank you. I'll now go on to agenda item 3. There are special circumstances as to why I've agreed for this business to be transacted urgently and without due notice of receipt of the report as required by Section 100B of the Local Government Act 1972. And these are as follows. The Acting Chief Executive, Ashley Hughes, was agreed by Council on the 8th of October 2024, following the resignation of the Chief Executive that day. He is also Section 151 officer, and so it was always intended that this arrangement was pending the search of a new interim and permanent Chief Executive, and would be for as short a period as possible. This process has been delayed by the resignations of the political leadership and the need for full council to appoint a new leader, which happened last Thursday. A head of paid service appointments panel could not be convened before this took place. The panel met yesterday, and I have agreed that this should come before the council without further delay, so the council can immediately forecast on the business of serving the borough and the challenges ahead. You have been sent the notes of the meeting of the Head of Paid Service Appointments panel held yesterday, and given this has only happened yesterday, a copy of the notes of the meeting are tabled tonight. Can I ask now the Executive Leader, Councillor Wills, to move the motion?
That we move the recommendations set out in the notes of the meeting of the Head of Paid Service Appointments panel to be agreed. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Second that, Chair. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The Conservative Group welcomed the appointment of Mr Cattrall as Interim Chief Exec for Tameside Council. Mr Cattrall, in my opinion, gave a very positive interview, especially about his style of management, and we were very pleased to support him being appointed to the role. We look forward to working with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. Executive Leader, do you wish to make some? Sorry. Councillor Billington.
I indicated to speak, Chair, and I just wanted to say that what I'm to say is not a reflection on Mr Cattrall, but I did have some concerns over the way that this was carried out. There was another candidate that did apply. However, that candidate decided to drop out of the process because he felt that it was a done deal in advance. He'd done his due diligence and seen news reports that Mr Cattrall had already been appointed. And is it any surprise that on the 10th of October in the Manchester Evening News, it's headlined, Council Boss set to take over troubled Town Hall next door. And that was on the 10th of October. And in that panel hearing that I attended yesterday, the Council's HR department didn't appoint another recruitment agency until last week to start the recruitment process for an interim chief executive. And I feel that basically that it's totally wrong to present essentially one candidate to members of this council. You know, the council leader talks about transparency in her last speech, and you know, and doing what's best for Tameside. I don't have any doubts about Mr Catherall. I'm sure he'll be good for the borough, but it is incumbent on ourselves to make sure that we have a proper, thorough process within this and make sure that we have a number of candidates. Last week, Oldham had 3 candidates. Mr Catherall said that essentially at that meeting that he got the job, and it was subject to approval to their councillors as well. So is it any wonder that you had candidates pulling out from that process? And I think it's totally wrong, and it does a disservice to the residents of the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Billington. I just want to say that Councillor Billington was at the meeting yesterday morning, and it was agreed unanimous to appoint. Just to point that out. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to congratulate Mr Catherall on his forthcoming appointment. With Mr Catherall splitting his time between Tameside 4 days a week, I understand, and Oldham Council 1 day a week, how does the Council justify this part-time arrangement, especially given the serious challenges Tameside is currently facing? Many are concerned about whether this appointment will provide Tameside with the dedicated leadership and stability it urgently needs. We understand that Mr Catherall initially planned to retire in 2021, but is now expected to stay on until 2026, while Oldham Council searches for a permanent replacement. It seems that he was specifically asked to step in around 2 weeks ago to support Tameside by the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, even though he hadn't intended to leave Oldham. This raises questions about his motivation and commitment to focus fully on Tameside's needs. Will this temporary setup actually provide the sustained leadership that Tameside requires, or is it merely a short-term solution? Additionally, there's reportedly frustration within Oldham Council about this arrangement, with suggestions that Mr Catherall may need to divide his attention between 2 councils. It's also noted that he still be available in Oldham Council outside his designated days in Tameside, adding to concerns about his focus in Tameside. We also heard reports of dissatisfaction and a toxic environment within Oldham Council, with criticism from independent, Conservative and Lib Dem groups.
Councillor Khan, can you keep your comments, please, to Tameside Council and not Oldham Council? Thank you.
With these dynamics in mind, can the Council provide assurance that Tameside needs will remain its top priority? For Tameside officers, especially social workers and essential staff, who are already under considerable pressure, it's crucial for the public to be confident that this arrangement is not just a quick fix, but represents real lasting support. As members prepare to vote tonight, I urge everyone to consider potential risks. If this setup does not lead to genuine improvements, it could have unintended consequences. While we hope for positive change, especially for our children and vulnerable adults, we need to ensure that this decision serves the long-term interest of our community in Tameside. Lastly, could the Council clarify the specifics on Mr Catherall's pay and conditions? Under this proposed arrangement, Mr Catherall would be seconded from Oldham Council, remaining on Oldham employee and the head of pay service there. Tameside Council would be recharged for 80% of this contracted time and salary based on a pro-rata share of his existing salary of £169,607 plus any pay award. With this in mind, how will this salary be aligned with specific performance goals tied to progress in Tameside? What safeguards are in place to manage potential conflicts of interest, given his responsibility to both councils, and with this role covering oversight of children's services, what specific improvements and outcomes does the Council expect to see during this tender? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sharif.
Thank you, Chair. I wish Councillor Khalil Khan was part of the interview process, and he too would have been reassured and all his questions would have been answered. So I was pleased to form part of the interview process of Mr Catherall. It was indeed a rigorous interview. It lasted up to 2 hours, and many, many difficult questions were asked, of which comprehensive answers were given. This council needs stability, and given Mr Catherall's interview, I have found him to bring that calmness, that stability, and that engaging style of leadership we need. This will create the culture we need, the confidence and the trust of our residents. I look forward to working with Mr Catterall and moving us forward. I also found him to be very passionate about Tameside. He is from Tameside. He was an apprentice here at the age of 16 and worked with us for a number of years. And he wants to come back and help us change things. Thank you.
Councillor Warrington.
Thanks, Chair. I hadn't actually planned to speak, but I felt I wanted to say something after hearing Councillor Billington's contribution this evening, which was really quite disappointing. It really was. It was so negative and really very unfair. I just want to put on record that I wish to welcome Harry Catterall to Tameside. I know Harry, I know his record, I know his achievements, and he's a very, very impressive CV, believe me. And we need someone with experience, we need someone with passion, we need someone with the expertise to help us move forward in a positive way, which is what we're all looking for. And I do hope that the negativity that has been displayed can be put aside and we can all work with our new interim Chief Executive as from very quickly, I hope, very quickly. And I hope that Harry Catterall will be able to address the issues that are presented to Tameside Council in all the areas that they are presented and help us quickly to get on the best side of them. If I can just say, welcome, Harry. I'm really pleased that you're with us, and I'm sure that you will make a huge impression. But what was noticed, what we were informed at least, was that the appointments panel unanimously agreed that Mr Catterall was the person for the job. So to hear this negativity now is really, really disappointing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. I too sat on the panel yesterday, and Mr Catterall is an excellent appointment if Council wishes to approve and endorse that decision. Just to reassure Councillor Khan, I too am passionate about clean, safe streets, as I know he is from his social media. It's what matters to our residents, it's why we were elected, it's about our home and our borough. And Mr Catterall's #1 priority is about a sense of place. It's about a street, it's about a neighbourhood, and it's about a town, and it's about the borough. That is his ambition for our borough, to get it back to where it should be. Just in terms of his commitment, we've already heard he's a Tameside resident, just like us. You know, what could be better than that? You also, Councillor Khan, described the frustration in Oldham Council. Now, I too have heard that. But the frustration comes from the fact that Mr Catterall is such a fantastic Chief Executive. They're very, very sorry to lose him 4 days a week to Tameside Council, not least because of the regeneration work in Oldham Town Centre. You only have to walk round, and to get children's services to good from the borderline of inadequate in 2.5 years, for us, we're in this position where we've struggled for years and years. Finally, we've got somebody who has a track record of delivering this. I'd also reassure Councillor Khan as well, Chair, that a role that Mr Catterall has carried out in Oldham is nurturing a Deputy Chief Executive. They have a system where they allow leaders, heads of service, assistant directors and directors to step up and learn the trade of a higher level. They therefore have people, a wide pool of people, to step up into that role, to learn the ropes and to keep the ship sailing in the same way that Mr Catterall has. And if you remember from the peer review recommendations earlier in the year, one of those recommendations was for us to appoint a Deputy Chief Executive. I welcome that. I feel that the officer pool should be strong and it should be broad, and I welcome to see how Mr Catterall broadens that experience. But like I said, his record is second to none. His transformation of the town centre in Oldham, you only have to walk round to see it. And not least, the way he has brought to the children and families of Oldham Council a good children's services is unbelievable. And I cannot wait to see what he does in Tameside.
Thank you. Councillor MacLeod.
Hello, this is the first time I've spoken at Council, so it's a deep honour for me to do so. But what's more of an honour is to welcome, hopefully, if it gets approved, Harry to this position. Briefly in my experience, I've been in the corporate world involved in a lot of high-level appointments of people at the Home Office and in other various high-level strategic roles. And I can say without doubt, I thought Harry was outstanding in his interview. And he wasn't just outstanding for saying the right things and doing the right things and being able to say the obvious strategic messages. When these questions were asked of Harry, there was very, very specific questions which all the people who were present around that table witnessed and heard his answers. And he was very, very specific about how he was wanting, for instance, to go into children's services. And this isn't the forum for me to go into that detail, but I was really, really impressed with his answers, because he not only had the strategic vision, but he also had very, very detailed answers. And bearing in mind that Oldham are our statistical neighbours, I think that's really, really important. And also, from a point of view, when I asked the question, or somebody asked the question, well, when can you start? He said, if it's approved, it's tomorrow morning that he's hitting the ground running. And I think the final point I'd address to people who possibly have got a jaundiced view and possibly playing a little bit of politics with it, which I kind of understand, is the key thing here is children's services. That's the first priority of this council. And also, allied to that is the homes and housing. And I think it's really, really important that we remain positive, welcome Harry, and get behind him, because it's too important a thing to play politics with. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Councillor Billington's asked to speak again, but I'm not going to take you. What I'm not doing is having a debate amongst councillors about the appointment, particularly by somebody who was on the appointments panel and agreed to it. It's been supported by your group, I believe, and it's totally unfair to the applicant to hear this. So therefore, I'm now handing over to our executive leader before we go to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And firstly, to thank everybody in terms of their contributions this evening and the discussion with regards to the appointment of Harry Catterall. Can I also thank Councillor Dickinson with regards to her well wishes and her participation as part of the process, alongside Councillor Billington and Councillor Andrea Coleman. It was a rigorous process. It is something, as my colleague has stated, that shouldn't be, a political football, but equally it is vitally important that we do pay attention to it. So I do welcome those contributions, but hopefully the testament of my cabinet and those that have participated in the conversation this evening and the work that Harry will undertake moving forward will speak for itself. Last week we discussed in the Chamber about what needs to happen in Tameside to establish stability, drive improvement and ensure that the voices of residents are heard. Since then, we've begun to take those first steps in that journey. I remain under no illusion about the time and work that will be required. However, I believe the decisions we've made over the past few days represent our commitment and show that we are serious about change and serious about turning words into action. Equally, appointing Harry or looking to appoint Harry in a timely manner shows how we are looking to do that and in a serious manner. Our first task has been to begin the process of finding a new Chief Exec. A formal appointments panel consisting of myself, the Executive Cabinet and 3 members of the opposition met yesterday to finalise the interim arrangements. I'm delighted to announce that, subject to agreement from full council, we will welcome Harry Catterall as Tameside Council's interim Chief Executive on a secondment basis. As a local government leader, Mr Catterall's record speaks for itself in a career spanning 4 decades, which took him from a 16-year-old apprentice starting out here in Tameside to a chief exec, he has consistently delivered results on a large scale, programmes of improvement. Of particular relevance to our priorities are his accomplishments at Oldham and St Helens councils. In both roles, he championed a whole council approach to overhauling children's services, which in Oldham's case saw the authority move from borderline inadequate to good in all areas. He has also been consistently successful on planning and implementing regeneration and investment initiatives, bringing in partners from across the country to drive lasting and transformative impact. Our secondment arrangement with Mr Catterall and Oldham Council will be subject to review in 6 months, during which time we will move with all possible speed to identify and secure a new permanent chief exec. In the meantime, as it's been said in this chamber, it was a unanimous decision of the appointments panel that Mr Catterall was the right man for the job, and we have absolute faith that he will provide the steady hands and know-how required to move Tameside Council forward. And as Councillor McLaren stated, is able to do that from tomorrow following endorsement this evening. I truly believe that we have opportunities in front of us to transform our borough for the better, and for this appointment, is the first step in that journey, one we will travel together. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved, seconded and debate. Could I ask all those in favour to show, please? Any against? One. Thank you. Any abstentions? No. That is then carried. Officially now, Harry is in the room at the back. Can I congratulate you? If you wish to just stand up for a minute. I'd like to... I'd like to welcome you officially as Chair of Council Business. I know you'll be at work very hard tomorrow onwards. That is where the change needs to start, and it must be unified by us all. We cannot all sit here and criticise. I'd prefer to people to challenge and to offer advice so it can be considered and acted on. And the other good thing about Harry, he was an apprentice here at 16 years old when he first came to Tameside Council. And the other important thing is, not only from Hyde, is Newton born and bred like myself. So, welcome, Harry. I'll now move on to agenda item 4, appointments to various bodies. Councillor Wills.
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking that we move the motion that the appointments to various bodies as set out in the table document be approved this evening by Council. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Yeah. Thank you. Everybody in favour of all those? Yeah, changes? Thank you. Anyone against? No, that is carried. Councillor Wills, do you wish to say a few words?
Opportunity to thank the previous scrutiny panel chairs and members for the service and congratulate all our new appointments. I look forward to working with you and council officers as we come together to continue to drive change and hold ourselves to account. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of the council business, so thank you all for your attendance.